Buenos días, bienvenido a su programa Entre Todos, domingo 11 horas, martes 2 de la tarde. Hoy presentándolo desde Federation Square, ACMIT, donde todos los meses Melbourne Filmoteca presenta una película en español con subtítulos en inglés. En el primer segmento veremos imágenes de la clausura en el Como Palace del Spanish Film Festival 2016. Veamos las imágenes.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Classics of Spain. My name is Maria. I'm Spanish and I'm from the business Gaudi Barcelona, imports from Spain at Como Center. And to join the Spanish Film Festival, it's a pleasure for me to offer at Palace Cinemas 3 exquisite performances directed by the Mexican Jessica Jacobi from Yoga Dance Move Studio in Turac Road, South Yarra. And also we have with us a popular Spanish guitarist, Ángel Mellado, whose stage name is El Brujo de Madrid. For the show, we have chosen Aussie and Spanish colors on the accessories, and also I have selected classic Spanish music from famous composers of Spain. The first performance is Asturias from the composer Isaac Albéniz from Spain. Ángel del Brujo de Madrid will play the guitar for this performance. The second performance is Habanera from Opera Carmen by Georges Bizet. Bizet is a French composer, but Opera Carmen, Habanera in Opera Carmen takes place in Seville, Spain. And the third performance is Ritual Fire Dance from El Amor Brujo by Manuel de Falla, a Spanish composer. Now I leave you with Jessica Jacobi, her students, and the popular Spanish guitarist Ángel Mellado. Thank you very much for coming and welcome to Classics of Spain.
Investment. In this budget, there's been a very significant investment in capital. So there's over $900 million for capital for public schools. So there's a very strong commitment to public education, and I'm a product of a state school. I'm a strong believer in public education, and I wish I'd studied my language. It was German in my school a little bit better. I just speak a tiny bit still, but it's very important that there is a provision of public education, including public language education. So we'll get some further detail from the education minister on that. But as I said, we are investing in community languages schools because they do also play, as a community-based initiative, a very critical role in the provision of educational services, and particularly the preservation of language, which is so important. But the issue you raised about being in a public sector, it's very important. And the Victorian School of Languages, which is located in Cornwall, if my memory serves me correct, which I visited, it plays a particularly critical role in ensuring that all students have access across the system, whether their school can offer a particular language or not, to a language. And it is really critical to identity within a multicultural society to have the preservation of language. I think a number of people know here, my own wife is born in China, and I know for her and her friends and her social group, particularly those who are having children, the ability of their children to speak their own, the language from which they were raised in China is very important about identity and culture. Now, I think I've been wound up at time, but thank you for that, George. We'll find more detail. I'll get more detail for you.
It's a few gratuitous comments about what we think of the federal budget on the way as well. For a Treasurer, the hardest job, and it's great to see the Minister for Multicultural Affairs and, might I say, a great ally of mine in framing the budget as Finance Minister here along today. One of the things I think I would say about this budget is it's always a challenge getting out there and trying to sell the budget to the community, trying to find those things that most appeal to people. This is a budget that's all about getting it done. Our first budget was about getting on with it. This is about getting it done. And the practical distinction you'll see, that the substantive issues that this government is putting in place are about delivery. And why are we about delivery? Because people have an ever-increasing level of cynicism about the political agenda, the timing by which governments go about and deliver the infrastructure that the community needs, the investment in services that the community deserves. So we're getting on and we're delivering them. The other thing is my job as Chief Salesman for the budget, of course ably assisted by the Premier, who's the Chief Salesman for the government all over. My job is to sell the budget, and one of the easier things that's happened, or thing that's made it so much easier, is the fact that, of course, we can now contrast it to the federal budget. This is a budget about growth and opportunity for Victorians. It's a budget that puts Victorians first in terms of our planning. It's a budget that builds on the newfound strengths of the Victorian economy. Let's make no mistake, in a very short 18 months, the Victorian economy's come from the back of the pack when it comes to the nation to the outstanding performer. We're certainly the fastest growing state in the nation when it comes to GSP, and we're certainly the fastest growing state in the nation by quite some considerable distance when it comes to state final demand, and that's the underlying activity within the consumption activity within the economy. And that gives us some great opportunities. What this budget shows is we're bringing debt back down below the levels we inherited from the previous government, from the 6.2% of gross state product down to 4.7% over the 4-year forward estimates. Contrast that with what's going on in Canberra at the moment. They're talking about a decade-long or maybe a millennium-long process to try and restrain and contain their debt growth. Think about our surplus, and our surpluses average $2.1 billion over the 4-year forward estimates. It's over $9 billion of collective surpluses over the 4-year forward estimates.
So given that we obviously have the ethnic press with us, let me begin by saying Guten Tag, Yassis, Ni Hao and Sawadee Hap, all languages that I have some experience or ability to speak, some better than others of course, and that leaves me to say hello. Thank you for having me today, and whilst the Treasurer has left, I want to start off by saying thank you to the Treasurer, because it was the Treasurer that's been able to afford me the opportunity to spend our Victorian taxpayers' money in those areas of small business innovation and trade. And I might start by focusing on the trade portfolio, because of course with our ethnic communities, it's one that we hope to do more work with our local communities here in Victoria. What we've done is we've invested more than we've ever before with our international trade and investment offices. Victoria has the most offices overseas of any government with the exception of the federal government Austrade offices. We have currently 18. We're looking to expand that to 21. Within a couple of months, I will announce the office opening in Singapore. In fact, I'm in Singapore towards the end of May, and I'll make the announcement then, but the formal opening of the office won't be for a couple of months. The announcement about our office in South America will be made shortly, and we've had some tremendous lobbying by all of our Latin American, South American representatives, both at consul level and also ambassadorial level, and that's very exciting for in relation to funding for Channel 31. So let me be as helpful as I can, but also clarify the Victorian government position. Channel 31 is obviously part of the Australian telecommunication system. That is, of course, broadcast, governed by the ACMA and funded by the federal government. Let me finish. In terms of spectrum, right, Channel 31 is afforded spectrum by the federal government. I'm very happy to work with whomever the incoming communications minister will be federally. At the moment, of course, it's Senator Mitch Fifield, whom I know personally, and may I say is a good man. And I'm happy to work with the federal government to see what we can do to provide those additional resources to community television, whether it's, in this instance, Channel 31, or whether it's, of course, other ethnic communities that are wanting to try and establish their own online TV presence, which there are a number that do. So we need to make sure that we're working with the federal government so that we don't duplicate processes in a way that wastes money, and to maximise the amount of money that you can access. Now, in terms of the issue of transmission in relation to over the internet or otherwise, again, this is an area of federal government responsibility, but I don't wish you to think that I'm not prepared to work on your behalf. Just as the Treasurer said that he was happy to work with you, so shall I. And maybe, given the demands on the Treasurer's time, before I leave, I'll provide you my contact details. It may be easier for you and I, or for Channel 31 and myself, to work together on that outcome.
Look, I think you've raised a very important point, and one of the things that we are looking at right across government is how we communicate our messages across all mediums. In fact, we know that we won't get our message through just via mainstream media, for example. We need to look to new technologies as well. You mentioned the internet, but there are, of course, a whole variety of ways. In particular, young people are now communicating with each other and intersecting with the community messages in ways. In fact, when I watch my kids, working their phones and working their iPads, I think, my goodness, as a minister in a state government, we actually need to think very creatively about all of the messaging and all of the mediums that we need to draw upon to make sure that we get those messages out across the wider community. So certainly Channel 31 is one of those, but there are others that we also need to be looking at investing in to make sure that we can get our message out.
So yes, we have said as a government that family violence is our number one law and order issue, because it's 1 in 3 women who are victims, but also 1 in 4 children. And can I just say that for the children who experience family violence, even if they are observing what is going on, they do suffer trauma from that experience, and it's something that can stay with them throughout their lives. So I think it's really important that as a community that we talk about these issues more and understand the impact that family violence has on children. And sadly, we know it can be generational, that young boys seeing their fathers perpetrating family violence can grow up to have a particular view about what it is like to be in a relationship and how they should interact with their partner. Similarly, young girls growing up have a similar, bad perception about what it is to be in a healthy relationship. So yes, our approach does provide funding for men's behaviour change programs.
Briefly, in terms of, just to follow up on what my colleague Mr Makakos had to indicate around the Family Violence Royal Commission, the most important thing about that Commission's report was to say, let's do away with the silos of how government responds to social issues. So if we're going to respond to family violence, we necessarily have to respond to housing, to policing, to mental health issues. So in that respect, it's an invitation to recast how we do all of those things. So in terms of how that applies in the multicultural community, the specific arrangements that we will bring to how housing solutions, how the targeted support for the navigator arrangements to help people, particularly from a cold background, navigate their way through, particularly if they are the victims of family violence, the difficulties that a sometimes impenetrable system of bureaucratic assistance sometimes creates. And we can look to models not just in Australia but internationally in comparative jurisdictions that I've had the pleasure of having seen firsthand, gives us a real path that I think we can particularly target the family violence housing response, the family violence support for kids, and the family violence mental health and other challenges that drive the causes of family violence rather than just responding to the symptoms. In terms of a dedicated program that received support in the budget in the area of mental health that has direct relevance is the area of suicide incidents. 654 Victorians took their own life in 2015. That's over twice the road toll. And again, how responses in different communities gets dealt with in that early intervention, information and support provision is going to be very important when it comes to cold communities. How we make sure that support for people who are in that space know that there's support, know that there's assistance that is culturally relevant to them is one of the many challenges that our expert reference panel that we've established is going to be providing advice as we seek to roll out over $27 million worth of assistance around the state to target both an intense support package of assertive outreach for people who have attempted suicide incidents, but more importantly, or equally as importantly, how we get messages out to communities, particularly young people in communities, that there is support if they feel alienated, if they feel that they're in a space where there is no way out other than a suicide incident. So that will be a particular challenge for us, and we need to make sure that our expert reference panel, whilst it has representatives of multicultural communities on it, in whatever work that they do, have specific support from multicultural communities in where the trials around the state, the 12 different trials that we're going to propose, apply.
Agradecemos la visita de nuestro excelentísimo embajador de El Salvador aquí a nuestra sede consular de El Salvador en Melbourne, Australia, al señor Luis Méndez Castro y su señora esposa, Margarita. Muchas gracias por estar con nosotros y compartir. Agradecemos a los medios de comunicación también que siempre nos apoyan. Gracias a toda la comunidad que estuvo presente. Hubiéramos querido hacerlo más extensivo, pero sabemos de que esto no va a ser ni la primera ni la última visita que tendremos. Ha sido muy enriquecedora la llegada, todas las noticias que nos ha dado, el apoyo, y también queremos felicitarlos por ese nombramiento que ha hecho El Salvador, porque sabemos de que es un acierto en calidad, en humanidad que le está dando a la diplomacia de El Salvador acá en Australia. Muchísimas gracias. Queremos también unirnos a esa felicitación de las madres, ese ser especial que todos llevamos en nuestro corazón. En el Día de las Madres, felicidades a todas las madres latinoamericanas y a las salvadoreñas en especial, que nos acogen también siempre desde El Salvador y acá en Australia. Muchísimas gracias a todos. Que Dios los bendiga.
Tengan Tengan ustedes muy buenos días para su programa Entre Todos. Hoy día desde las 11 de la mañana en su canal 44. Hoy día contamos con la presencia de Liliana Jones de la Asociación Hispánica de Victoria. Ella es la presidenta. Hoy día a quien le damos la bienvenida al programa. ¿Cómo estás, Liliana? Muy buenos días.
Muchas gracias, Nancy. Estoy muy bien y gracias. Estoy contentísima porque estamos preparando un nuevo evento para el mes de mayo. Es un evento dedicado al país de México y ocurre, como siempre, en nuestras tertulias el segundo sábado de cada mes. El 14 de mayo, entonces, para avisarles a los que te oyen.
¿Ya tienen preparado entonces ya?
Ya tenemos preparado.
Todo.
El calendario va avanzando de 2 eventos en 2 eventos para tener todo listo y no tener nada de último momento. La presentación que tendremos está a cargo de una amiga nuestra que se llama Claudia Débora, es una mexicana fabulosa. Ella va a hablar de un libro que acaba de publicar, que tiene historias que le contaron en su infancia y algunas historias que se las ha creado también. Tiene mucho que ver con su conexión mexicana, hace mención de su abuelita. Y es una historia fascinante. Estoy muy contenta de que ella tenga la oportunidad de presentar esto para nosotros.
La fecha que se va a realizar y a qué hora estarán abriendo las puertas y el contacto que pueden tener las personas que están interesadas.
Es la tertulia de México, va a ser el 14 de mayo, sábado 14 de mayo. El evento empieza a las 6:45 p.m. Es importante que se haga la reserva de sus asientos porque tenemos una respuesta muy positiva de la comunidad. Es importante que se comuniquen con nosotros a través del email a societyhispanic@gmail.com, expresen su intención de venir. Es mucho mejor si ustedes pueden hacer el pago a través de una transferencia bancaria para asegurarnos de su mesa. En el evento que tuvimos en abril, tuvimos que dejar a gente fuera del evento porque no fue posible tener tantos. Tuvimos como 90 personas. Entonces los espero, por favor hagan su reserva, queremos conocerlos y queremos apoyar sus actividades. Muchas gracias.
Muchas gracias a ti, Liana, y continuamos aquí en Entre Todos. Y no se olviden, la Sociedad Hispánica les tiene siempre cada mes diferentes actividades de diferentes países. Vengan, asistan, porque así vamos a compartir entre todos ustedes. Gracias.
Amigos, muchas gracias por habernos acompañado en Melbourne Filmoteca el día de hoy con la película Las Acacias, película de Argentina y España. Y por supuesto que los esperamos a todos aquí el mes que entra en la película Carmina y Amén, que es la segunda parte de la película Carmina. Vamos a estar aquí en ACMI, en Melbourne Filmoteca, el 7 de junio. Los esperamos a las 7 de la tarde. Como muchos de ustedes conocerán la película de Carmina, pues es una señora que todos tenemos que conocer, que es un poco loca e irreverente. Y en esta segunda parte, el esposo de Carmina muere y la idea de la película es que ella trata de ocultar su muerte para poder recibir el pago de la pensión. Entonces es una película muy divertida, esperamos que todos puedan acompañarnos. Junio 7 en ACMI, en Melbourne Filmoteca. Gracias.
¡Antonio! ¡Antonio, por favor! Ay. María, que está puesto tu padre muy malito. Mi alma, vente para acá. Porque María, hoy es sábado, domingo y lunes. El lunes es cuando a tu padre le ingresan la paga extraordinaria. Si damos parte ahora mismo, no la cobramos. ¿Qué estás diciendo, mamá?
Y de parte de todo el equipo de Melbourne Filmoteca queremos mandar una gran felicitación a todas las mamás, que lo pasen muy bonito este domingo, rodeadas de todos sus seres queridos, y que todos los hijos traigan a las mamás a Melbourne Filmoteca, cada martes a las 7 en ACMI. Gracias.
Complemento mis palabras con un saludo especial a las madres latinoamericanas en Melbourne y en particular a ese colectivo de madres salvadoreñas en esta región. Gracias en nombre de la Embajada de El Salvador y hago lo mío también las palabras en nombre de nuestro cónsul general en Melbourne. Gracias.
Un saludo muy especial para todas las madres en ese día tan especial. Gracias nuevamente a los medios, bendiciones a todas las madres. Que Dios las bendiga grandemente por ser una representante de nuestro Señor Jesucristo acá en la tierra. Dios la bendiga.
Hemos llegado al final de su programa Entre Todos. La invitación es para que se suscriba al canal de Antena Hispana en YouTube. Gracias.